Oh, welcome, Mike, to big content, to big usernames on Twitter, all capital. Honestly, you look like a scammer.
I am a scammer.
Don't we all know?
I actually get called a scammer pretty often. Makes me sad.
I can see that because you. Here's the thing: like snapback is tied to culture, right? Like your whole thing is you want to be relevant in sports as it relates to like culture, right? And I think culture can easily influence actions, right? So like if NFTs are part of culture, like you find yourself naturally gravitating towards those. So when those things become mass market things, but then they, fall off, people are going to be like...
Fall off. Bitcoin's up like 12% this week.
Why do you think people are calling you a scammer then?
Because they sold all their Bitcoin at the bottom. Get your crypto.
You told them the hodl, right?
Yeah. I hodled everything like a cuck. But
I actually just bought another VFriend like last week, 2 weeks ago.
For what?
For the long run.
Okay. Did you actually?
Yeah.
Like 3 or 4 series. You actually have like a fourth of an Ethereum of
from that bet?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
I think it's still in the account.
Nah, I don't know anything about that.
You lost it.
We'll call
What'd
it
you
even
bet
for...
it on? What'd you bet it on?
No, I definitely have it somewhere, I'm sure.
No, but it's in the betting account.
Oh.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
Like, I think we should fire on something. We might have fired it, but if not,
maybe.
We should put it.
I definitely didn't like just do it myself.
No,
put it that way. We might have done it together.
Yeah.
Unless. I have no idea. All right.
Big content. Nick and I got a office together. Very excited for that. Hi, fam. The Snapback boys have officially got an office with Sir Ercolano. This is going to be our little studio room. We'll be refurnishing and changing up the whole spot, but office space to work. People will be working around here. Don't get it twisted. Got some bathrooms, little kitchen. We will buy a fridge, and then a solo content room, maybe a double for some video game content. Not too bad. Not too bad. And when we were checking it out today, the real estate broker came up and he was like, I'm thinking about doing content, or I've started to do content, and I feel like it's the most applicable real life experience we've had since we started this podcast that we can kind of like actually talk on. This guy who Nick thought was this superintendent, he was the guy who showed us the building in the first place.
But he could have been the super. It could have been 2 brokers and a super that were with him. Like the super's usually in the building. And then when we looked on the thing, on the board, where it shows the super.
That's not a Sal.
I'm supposed to know what a fucking Sal looks like.
My guy who I thought was Sal was more so Sal than that guy.
Bro, if we had pictures of the guys and I put them up on the screen and they had to vote who more looks like a Sal.
A Superintendent Sal?
The dude who walked down, the second guy who came down and you asked if he was Sal, when on his name.
I didn't see. I looked up.
But regardless, I want to say,
goes, hey, fellas.
Listen, his name was Milton.
Yeah, no.
And he looked like a motherfucking Milton. Yeah, the fact that you thought it was a Sal.
The Jewish broker that was showing us the commercial real estate space.
Sal didn't look like anyone.
Sal I don't have any Jewish friends named
Sal didn't look. Okay, let's just put it out there flat. Are there black people named Sal?
Yeah. You don't think so?
I'm sure there are, but there are way more white people.
Is this how we get you finally?
There are way more white people named Sal.
Yeah.
Therefore, my guess.
No.
Just on him being white is.
No, just based off the suit. What does the superintendent wear? Are they more likely to wear
a suit?
What do you mean a suit?
He's super.
Oh, my God. All right, anyways, not Sal comes down, and he's like, so I've been getting started on this content thing, and everyone does these things, man on the street, where they ask someone, oh, where do you live? And then they go show them, and they're brokers for apartments, but that's how they build their content. And now, or actually, it's not even have to be a broker. Like, I think that Daniel Mack guy did it with cars, and then people started copying, doing it.
I want to actually go back a little bit, because when the guy first walked in the room, I don't know if you were in there or not. Yeah. But he's like, oh, I want to ask you something. This broker guy came in to like see if we had any questions about the. But yeah, he was like, I got a question. Me and my friends were like having a discussion about like podcasting, about the podcasting industry. And one of my friends was like, yeah, it's like a really good, like booming industry right now. And then he goes to me and he prefaces like, I don't want to like, you know.
He knew we did content, but he didn't know what we did.
Right. And he's like, I don't want to like rain on your parade, but I kind of feel like why would you listen to podcasts when you could like read or watch TV or something? And I'm like, you're like, you make yourself sound dumb right now. Like, you don't make me feel bad at all by saying
He's going to be listening to this.
Whatever, fuck him. We're trying to help him anyways. But he was like, he came at it from an innocent place. Him and his friends were like having a discussion about it, and they were curious from like a content creator's standpoint about the podcast industry and stuff. And he wants to get into content because he sees a lot of real estate people within New York. I almost feel like every real estate person I know.
We've talked about this before.
Yeah, wait, like, who did I talk about?
We've talked about this on here when I was looking for an apartment, I think. And we were like, if you're a real estate broker, how are you not making a TikTok and just showing off each place?
When I was down in Baltimore, when I was down in Baltimore last weekend, there was someone who's in real estate. He was like, I'm thinking about like starting to make videos where I like show off the apartments and stuff. And I'm like, Baltimore can't be 5 years behind New York, like culturally, right? Like in my mind, I was like, I can't think of a New York real estate person that doesn't make TikToks about like the stuff that they do. But this guy that we were with this morning was like, I don't see any of that type of content in the commercial real estate space. And I was like, ooh, that's a really, really good idea. We just kind of got into a conversation about it, just like brainstorming the ideas.
Well, the light bulb moment, which we all loved, which was when he was like, yeah, and I feel like I'm going to do the content and not like sell myself and say the company I work for right out of the start until I build up trust and, you know, an audience. And we were like, all right. He's got it. Even if
he only wanted to provide value and make entertaining, informational content.
And he didn't even know what he was doing.
Yeah.
And it's good that his instinct led that way.
That's huge.
Then this is where I give credit to Nick for being a top tier creator, a super creator who would wear suits.
Superintendent creator.
You obviously the basics are like you could compare, you know, areas to work in. You could compare spaces. You could highlight the best features and maybe even like a bad feature that you would want to fix, stuff like that. That's not necessarily going to be the most engaging. Where you came in, you were like, this is how I would do it. You walk through the office while people are there. You're showing off the office. And then as like a joke, as a sidebar, you ask a random employee like what they think about the boss or you ask the boss, who's your least favorite employee, you know, and it's those little things that
I think there are so many nuances to this specific piece of content that actually is so fun. And you can come at it from a lot of different angles. What I thought was kind of interesting was when we first asked him, or Maggie might have asked him, do you ask the people what the price of the thing is? And he was like, no, because I don't want to sell. And I was like, I don't know. Your mindset is in the right place, but I'm not sure how those two.
Yeah, those two aren't related.
Those two link up. I think he thought that if the person said what they were like paying for it, then it somehow might feel like the audience, like they're trying to sell the place to the audience or something like that.
No, I think there's some fears. It's like, one, they don't want to reveal their pricing because that will set the market for them, right?
Well, What I do think is important though is that type of content, especially if your back end purpose is to eventually, you know, sell or rent real estate space to companies. I think you do need to have a blend of informational and entertainment, right? And I think the informational does help in the sense of like the pricing of the things. And I think you could just dig so much deeper into it. Like the pricing obviously would help someone, you know, like yourself who's never seen office space before. Like, oh, this is what I'd be looking at. And it's the same thing with apartments on TikTok.
It's also the most interesting part of the content is how much is this space worth? How much does it cost?
And you can dig into, like there's so many, I think almost like a Cribs version of going through the kitchen of what's in the office space is really funny. I think even asking the business, the owner afterwards saying like, hey, knowing what you know now, would you have leased this place again? Or like, what would you have done differently moving in kind of thing? Because I know I learned so much after the 2 years of being in this space that I look for in the next space kind of thing.
The toughest part, I'll say, of that type of content is you're thinking about if they were to come in here. You guys would crush it. The video would be great. You would use the face. And that's what a lot of those man on the street people did. They started to either it's the car grabbed your attention or the person's apartment that they went into. Commercial space, probably not going to be that interesting for the most part. Obviously, some spaces will be. And then the person that you're kind of going through it with, they're not going to be that talented on camera. That's probably the toughest part. And sometimes, like, you just got to make it about yourself. And it's your personality who's actually going through. And then if you get a good character, you utilize that.
That is super fair. I kind of just, like, think, oh, if he came into our office, it would just be, like, natural. I'm just kind of walking through. Exactly. People would, like, say what up.
Yeah.
But in, like, an accounting firm.
They'd be like,
what the hell's going on kind of thing. But yeah,
we've learned that in our videos too, which is like with fans, you want to, I mean, our whole thing is around our fans, all the content we do. And we've come up with opportunities, and it's like we have a fan who they're just camera shy, or they're not entertaining, or they've never done, and it's like, oh, well, no shit, like they don't do this for a living. So that's probably the one thing I would keep in mind, but his mindset was great, and I thought that was cool.
Thought it was really, really interesting angle. But that's the thing that you want to be looking at as a content creator, is like what's working in another industry, or it could be an adjacent industry very similar to, like, I could go look at fantasy basketball, because no one in fantasy football is actually looking at fantasy basketball content. And maybe there's something over there that's like obvious to the people in that subsection of an industry that's like, oh, this video works every single time.
And it's not,
but we've never looked at it. So it's like, oh, it's there. You know what I mean? Like, that's the kind of stuff you should be looking at as a content creator, not just in your industry, but what can I take that's already been proven successful elsewhere? Because if it's proven it's successful elsewhere, it's likely not just because it's the industry, it's because people's behavior. They just like the thing that you're making. So transfer it over to yours.
When we were looking in YouTube consultants, we had this one guy who pretty much sold us like his methodology. And he said, take the methodology. If you can figure it out yourself, I'm happy for you guys. If not, you need me to handhold you, walk you through it, you can do it. But it was essentially that. It was look across 5 niches and take the top 5 videos and identify what the formats are. And those formats are actually what works, and they can be applied to like 90% of different niches. So I would say the thing that most excited me about that is what gets me really hype is when people use content and social media to acquire high ticket or high value customers. And I think nowadays, you know, people are obsessed with the 1 million followers, and then you could have a brand deal for $10,000, as opposed to, he might get a video that might do 3,000 views, but if it leads to like 2 leads and he closes one of them, that's going to be more than a brand deal for someone with like 100,000 followers getting 100,000 views per video. It's those high value customers that content's interesting for.
Do you think, and that's why, like, you'll get high value customers if your value prop is correct?
Yeah.
And I do wonder, like, overall, say that type of content does not go to scale, will it reach the right people though? It'll be engaging. I would probably watch it regardless of whether or not I like ran a business or whatever. I don't know if it necessarily speaks to.
Yeah, if you hashtagged it right, you'd be surprised. Like if you were like New York offices, Manhattan work, or CEO, workplace,
rags to riches.
Yeah, rags to riches.
Superintendent.
Because this is the thing about content, is the best word of mouth is word of mouth. And so even if like imagine your friend just happens to scroll on and they're like, oh, I heard that and we're creating content, we're putting out content to the world saying we're looking for an office. Your friend sees it, it gets sent to you. So it's not always the platform that, you know, it needs to be discovered on. Are there 48-year-old CEOs who are looking for a new office and they're like, let's go to TikTok, or they're just scrolling TikTok? Probably not, but you'd be surprised. The algorithms, I mean, my friends always joke, like my buddy texted me about raisins today, and then he's seeing raisin ads. You know, the internet, it'll find you.
Yeah, I do want to go back to one point that you started this whole conversation with, was the guy was saying, he's like, I don't want to sell anything because I feel like that breaks the trust of the audience. That was like the most pure shit ever. And I feel like if you are not starting content with just the pure passion of being like, oh, this is a really fun idea, like I can't wait to do it, I don't want to sell.
Hot take. I think his angle was very clear. I think he had the business. I think the business purpose. I don't even know if he was that passionate about it.
I think he was really excited about it.
He was definitely
maybe he was excited because it was a good idea, but
which I think is actually okay. Like, I think it's no different than just thinking of an awesome marketing tactic.
Yeah.
Right. But
how long does that last? The spark.
Right. It might be a spark, and maybe that's all you need to get started. But I would say it's more so the balance of when do you start to sell in, as opposed to, you know, what, like how passionate you are about it. But that's been a topic that's been on my mind recently. It wasn't technically in the show notes.
Angle he would have to do was, one, like curate it, finding people that he thinks the office would be interesting, and 2, it would obviously have to be spaces that he's rented out, not like friends who have office buildings.
No,
I think so.
Why?
That's the only way he'd be able to sell. Because people will be like, oh, where do you find these office spaces? And it'd be like,
I think it should be a healthy mix. I think it should be like, he should try and get in the craziest office spaces, and then he should try and do stuff he sells. People should just be coming to him looking for an office at the end of the day. Anyways, I was thinking about creator lifespan, and you talk about, like, you know, if they don't really want to do it. I've been talking to some creators who've been in it for like 6-7 years, and I can kind of just see them being like lost. and like not knowing what to do. They don't necessarily want to follow the trend. They don't necessarily. And then we have this video here.
So we're going to throw a video up on the screen. We'll watch it with you in real time.
First internship, can't fathom working for the rest of their life.
The original creator turned his stitches off for some reason, even though he asked a question, but I think we need to talk about this because I am a Gen Zer who got her first like corporate in-office adult 9-to-5 job this year. And I was actually really excited about it because it was a marketing position in a healthcare company, so I thought it was going to be really great. And I get that the company itself ended up being like horribly toxic, but I also made the decision within only 4 months of working there that if I had to do this like corporate drone thing for the rest of my life, because I did the math, you couldn't retire in this economy, I just like would rather clock out eternally. Like there were people in their 40s at the company making the same amount of money as me, like still in the same struggling to get by position. And I was like, is this it? This is life? Because I would rather just like tap out right now. And I tried to keep pushing through with blind optimism, but it was like so soul crushing that 9 months in, I just had to wake up and be like, hey, is this the life you want to keep living? And the answer was like, no, I don't want to do this. So I had to leave for my own health reasons, ironically. And I've sadly been happier doing odd jobs here and there, struggling to pay bills and just living life and having fun. And everyone keeps asking, like, what's your plan? What are you going to do? I don't know what the plan is, but I know if I have to go back to that corporate in-office 9-to-5, like, I won't be alive a year from that date. So say whatever you want about Gen Z, but we're just finally putting our foot down about this corporate lifestyle, where you waste most of your life sitting in an office doing little to nothing. I would rather just get my work done on my time and then get to go live my life. Gen Z, to their core, takes the motto, work to live, do not live to work, very seriously. And if corporations don't start understanding that, like, it's just gonna keep getting worse for everybody.
I think that last line is great.
I think we could probably talk about this for like an hour and a half.
But let's reverse engineer it. She said corporations need to start thinking about that. What can corporations do? There's some 9-to-5s that there isn't an answer. Is there? Can you make certain things fun?
It goes back. You don't necessarily need to make it fun, but you have to have a common goal or a mission that people believe in. And you present that through branding.
But some of these ones are tough.
Then they don't deserve the best talent. If they're a bad place to work, if they're boring, if they're not fun, like why would someone want to work there?
Yeah, but I don't even know if that's her argument. That like
it's not. But I'm telling you what like the crux of the problem I think is here is necessarily that she's saying, oh, these corporations are going to learn. They will over time because the talent that they're going to be able to recruit is going to go further and further and further down because people would rather put the resumes in and work at places like here or places, you know, that are more inspiring to them or that have a common goal or see something cool that they believe in. I mean, that was like the end point of it, I think.
So when she says odd jobs, to be clear, that's not like being a creator. That's more so
probably maybe fucking
building shit on
TaskRabbit, Uber Eats, whatever it is, which I really respect.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of awareness.
I haven't done it, obviously, but it feels like my pulse feels like you can make more money doing that stuff if you like actually put some time and energy into it as opposed to like an opening salary. Now, I think the scales are different, right? Like, yeah, you come work in New York in sports media, you might make $45,000 entry level, if that. And then it's going to be a grind. And then maybe you'll get to like 6 figures, you know, a few years, not even a few years, 5-6 years into your career. The TaskRabbit stuff, you might come in at 80 and you might actually be able to just make 80 every single year. But then there's no, like, you get 15, 20 years into your professional career, you would think you hit that curve as opposed to TaskRabbit. I don't know. It's probably a straight line. And that stuff, the economics of it probably don't last forever.
No, but like what I think people are starting to realize is your life is, okay, she values things more than money.
Yeah.
Where I don't know if people do or realize that they're like allowed to value other things and actually practically act on that.
Yes.
In the sense that she's like, I would value my freedom and my flexibility in my lifestyle over a steady paycheck and over me not being bored all day and hating my job. Where I think a lot of people would agree with that, but I don't think they understand that they could actually practically act on that.
I don't think people understand that for the first time ever, you can make as much money doing it. And that's the change is, yes, you will not have the consistency of the biweekly paycheck and maybe that health insurance after a few months, but you could actually accrue the same amount of money. If you are someone who can deal with the stress and anxiety and the highs and lows of 1 week I'm making $1,000, 1 week I'm making $400.
That's where it's being aware.
But net, I'm still making $3,000 a month. Okay, that's what I was making in my old job.
So I think also there are some people who are like privileged that will do stuff like this, and they're not actually paying their bills. So it's like that shit is out the window. If she's actually living by herself and paying, if she's, you know, paycheck to paycheck, actually working other jobs, I think it's extremely practical. And where I want to kind of segue this conversation that still is, I've been thinking more and more about like the creator economy and where it's going to be in 10 years. And I still think there's like really only 3 or 4 subsections of creators, that the way that the creator economy is set up right now, right? It's like the individual creator who just started making a full-time living. There's probably like us, and then there's the maybe like company that was created off a creator, and then there's like the worldwide influencers, right? Like I'm sure I'm missing like maybe a couple, but those are, I feel like, are like the 4 kind of situations right now. What I think we're going to see over the next few years is people are almost, I think they should almost label themselves as freelance content creators. Okay, let's say you hated your corporate job and you're like, I'm going to be a freelance web designer. It's not weird to be like, man, my life is flexible and I'm not sure where my income is coming from, but I'm making $65K a year doing it, and I don't know what my ceiling is. If more people had the freelance mindset with content creation, I think it'd be a lot healthier for them, because your friend or whoever you're speaking to, I think a lot of people get in the rat race of like, I need to keep growing. I need to get to that next level of content creation, where you could supplement whatever your salary was to become a content creator over the span of like 2 to 3 years, and say, hey, I'm a freelance content creator. But that's if you actually like that lifestyle. If you like the idea of being like, if your idea of being a content creator is Mr. Beast, like you're not going to make it there, and it's a bad plan to set off for. But if you're like, I want to be a freelancer because I'm passionate about content, that's realistic. But whatever you're doing freelance-wise, like if you're a web designer, if you're whatever it is, like you have to be passionate about that thing. But I do think we'll see a lot more like freelance content creators where it's like, oh, I'm making 10K from doing 2 YouTube videos a week for this company, and then I'm making, you know, $4,000 a year off AdSense and TikTok creativity program. I'm making $10,000 a year from a product. You know what I mean? Like this mishmash of random freelance projects that end up being like the salary of who you are. And I think we're going to see a huge amount of creators start to fall into that bucket, not these like crazy other skyrocketed buckets.
Yeah, diversifying the income streams through just different jobs. Now, you do essentially become a pseudo employee for those companies. Is that okay though? As long as you're doing what you want to do, and then you got to balance, okay, are we going to take this job with this company? You know, it's just things to think about.
When I first left my job, the reason I did it wasn't because it was like, I mean, part of me was like, yeah, I want to go after this fantasy football thing. But for me, it was much more related to her thought process, where I valued my flexibility in my lifestyle and my freedom and my be able to be creative when I wanted to. And that led me to doing freelance work in marketing, and it led me to do a little piece of content, and it led me to do like this and that. And I was happy making money from wherever I could get it to end up paying for my my life. And yeah, like there would be clients that I was like beholden to. But for me, that was way better than doing the corporate grind. And I wasn't making that much money at the time, but it made me a much happier person, a much more inspired person. I just think that that's such a real path in today's world that people think is like outlandish. You don't need to get to $500,000 a year. You could literally get to $60K a year. It'll be hard. It's no different than actually being a freelancer in any other industry. It's not easy to just make a salary doing that shit. If you have a little bit of like go-getter mentality and you're a little bit creative, you can get there over time. And I think being situationally aware, not everybody can just quit their job and then start paying bill to bill, but you can also stay in that job. You can make a plan to stay in your job for 6 months. Say, hey, I'm just going to save up for the next 6 months so that I have a runway of 6 months or 12 months to be happy and figure out what I want to do there. It's all like real practical life that people are doing and people are living and people are working through right now, that I feel like a lot of people don't understand that is actually a real path. And that's why we get onto podcasts like this and talk about it, because
I feel
journeys
like
we've been through.
The trickiest part is probably convincing that person who didn't just start their job, but they're into their life and they have gotten to that salary floor of, even if it's 100K, and you're starting to think, oh, well, I can't take a dip because I do this and this and this, and that's tough.
That's a lifestyle thing again, though, too. It's a lot about like the lifestyle that you build up for yourself. What things do you actually need versus what things do you want versus like things you're buying because, you know, you're insecure about X, Y, or Z. You know, a lot of the roots of these problems trace back to that problem right there in itself. And I think, like, I commend this girl. If what she's saying, everything is like true, I commend the fact that she was like self-aware enough to say, hey, I can't do this. I'm going to do odd jobs. Everyone's asking her like, what are you doing? What are you doing? The other thing about that that part right there too. It's like, what are you doing? It's like, I don't have a plan. What you realize is like, once you get to a level of success relative, you get there, especially in the financial sense, and you're left with this like, okay, now what did I do that all for?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're there and now you're like, oh, now I just get to live my life.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, it's not about where you're going with it. It's about like putting the right pieces around you while you're building it up. So it's like the odd jobs, you don't need a plan if you're enjoying what you're doing at the time doing it. Right. Like obviously it'd be nice to have a fucking retirement plan or whatever, but that's more of an outside thing.
Plan.
Yeah.
Isn't that what the Joker said? I think everyone loves a plan even if it goes wrong.
No, it was like, everyone has a plan until like one little, there's like everyone has a plan until you get punched in the mouth.
More inspirational quotes on big content. You tweeted at Felipe about the Creativity Fund after he posted something. Creativity Fund still going well, still happening. Any thoughts, general updates on
our TikToks are fucking absolute flop fest right now.
Is that platform or you think it's the content? That's probably like a really good conversation right now, actually, if you're willing to be vulnerable.
Sure. I think I want to say maybe it's a mix. I do think our content's changed a little bit in season. We're a lot more like fantasy betting focused, which I think probably mixes into the algorithm for us. Then again, we still have like a bunch of trivias like 580, 360, 330, like in a row that will rip. And then we'll have, I don't think the last like 8 trivias we put out hit anyone's like For You page.
Interesting.
And do I think the content is...
Well, I think the tricky part, I guess, for you to evaluate it is it's the same content, right? Or Matt sitting over there like, I was the GOAT.
Well, here's the thing. Like, the trivia, people like to play along, but I also think the best performing ones are obviously when something like big, annoying, or controversial happens. That'll always do well on TikTok. Yeah. But it's the ones where we are like really good in the trivia, right? And it'll be like 30 answers and we get like 28 out of 30. Those are always like, oh, they were like on point for this one. Ones where we have a list of 30 and we only get like 7 of them. Yeah. It's just not good content. And obviously...
Is that what the last 8 have been? They've all been like unsuccessful?
A mix. I mean, some of them are not like that, but I would say the common denominator for the ones that do really well are us doing really well. I will say though, on like YouTube is still doing really, really well. Okay. We could like do no wrong there and everyone loves the content there, but TikTok taking a little bit of a dip.
And do you think that is anything or a lot due to the fact that eventually people just like tire of the same content? Like Ike's Lunch, right? Like it went like that and then it went like that just naturally. It was never going to, it can't always go up forever, right? Yeah. And then it found like its floor though, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that it's just people have seen trivia and they're tired of trivia?
I don't think that's the case. I think with Ike's Lunch, I think we got bored of doing it. Yeah. And so the content itself was a representation of how we felt about doing it, right? It got boring, got repetitive, whatever it is. You know, there's only one subject, so there's only so many things you could do with it. Yeah. With trivia, these guys are still like excited about it. We're making new games as often as we can. When we have
the new game iteration is impressive. I'll speak as one of a million people that follows you. Are you guys at 1 million yet? Soon.
650 still.
I don't watch much trivia anymore, but that's just like my habit. I think people just have content habits that they go through different waves. I'm busier during football season, so committing to like a 5-minute trivia video is just more unlikely for me right now. There's got to be some, I don't know if it's trivia fatigue necessarily, like I asked, but I think just the fall, I'm busier, so some people are more busy. I think this summer, like, people are chilling.
That's super valid too. And eventually I'm sure there will be some kind of like trivia fatigue, which is why we have meetings every Thursday to improve on trivia and like see what the comments are, engagement, and like see where we can start improving. And it was very much like when Immaculate Grid or whatever, those grids like started popping off. Like we realized really quickly everyone started doing it. No one wants to watch it anymore. So we pivoted off. Yeah. While all these other companies, your friend wanted $10 million, all that kind of shit happened. And we saw very clearly like that's kind of the most boring part of trivia that we could do. So we're always trying to improve it. Yeah.
But you're still making money on TikTok. You like the Creativity Fund. You think it's a good option for short form creators.
Yeah. And I will say again, sorry, that was my original point was like Ike's Lunch fell off because we were not passionate about it. But I still have fun doing that. Yeah. Like I have no problem sitting on the couch and like playing. Even if the views fall off, like I still enjoy making it. So I'm going to still fucking do that stuff. And hopefully it overlaps. Yeah, we're still making money on it. And again, when I replied to Felipe, he was talking about how they started making serious money off of TikTok doing that. And I think I brought this up a few months ago, and I was like, I think the TikTok creativity program is like a legit place to diversify the revenue for creators. And obviously there are standards where you have to have a certain number of followers or count or whatever. But in terms of just like organically paying content creators, feels good because you could have one video pop off and there you could just made $500. Yeah. You know what I mean? And like you can't depend on it. But over a larger sample size, say you make 100 videos in a month, you might be able to depend on like 1 or 2 of those going for 500,000 views and making the money off of that, which over a larger sample size is easier to depend on. Same thing with like predicting football, 16 games versus if you're playing like fantasy baseball over the course of 162 games, you have a much better like sample size of what things will probably occur. Yeah. And that's kind of the way I look at the TikTok Creator Fund.
Okay. But you're making more money on YouTube, I would assume.
Yeah.
Way more money?
They were about the same.
Yeah.
TikTok, we were like, when we first started ripping, trivias were going crazy. We were probably at like 5 to 6K a month. Yeah. And now it's probably half that, around 3. YouTube is still at like 6 to 7.
If you can get on long form, I think we're dead. Yeah, if you can get on long form, I would say that's probably the end goal, but people are making money on short form. Last thing, we are hiring a new position. What would you do to stand out on the application specifically? So we're hiring a position for big content to be a producer. So you will be in the office every Wednesday. You'll watch the pod. You'll mark notes. You'll make fixes like when our camera dies. And then you'll cut up social clips.
You'll edit this full pod too.
Edit the full pod, edit the social clips, put hooks, put captions, make it engaging, add graphics, and then post to social media, right? So really produce and then run social for the podcast. If you're interested, comment down below and we'll find you. But you put out a video on TikTok, you got about 50 applicants, and I was going through them all, and I was, curious what stood out to you from anyone's application. It could be something you put on the resume. They could link something. We put a section where it was like other. Where did your brain first go to start narrowing it down?
So I'll first say I did a poor job. I think whenever you're looking for a specific role or bring someone on, you should know exactly what you're looking for. Right. You should almost, and I was just actually talking about Tony with this because we're going to bring in someone to do vlogs for us and we're going to have them come in to like interview. But we need to know by the end of that, what do we say? By the end of the interview, what do we ask so that we know whether or not that person is the right person for us? That's the way an application should be set up. So by the end of it, you're not asking random questions that something should like surprise you and be like, oh, cool. Yeah. You should know by the end of it, like whether or not this person is the right fit for the job. So I think I kind of set that up poorly, to be honest with you. But I realized throughout while I'm watching it for big content, I think doing the long form YouTube edits are important. I think the social clips will be a little bit more important. One, if I was an applicant for this and I saw that's what you wanted done for social, I would immediately have gone back to last week's big content and the week before, cut up about 5 clips for each of them, been like, this is what I could do for you. Done. Not a single person did that.
It's so simple.
That would have been
Is it not simple? Or we just know it because we're in it?
I don't know.
Because my brain was like, the person who would have already gotten this job would have watched last week's episode. I didn't even need 5 clips.
Yeah.
Made one clip.
Right. I was just being dramatic.
Yeah. Made one clip, sent it, and been like, this is what me working for you guys would look like.
Yep. So my brain would just look at videos that people have done and been like, oh, this is what we want for big content. So those people started to stick out for me. But I went into it without actually knowing exactly what I thought was most important. And as I was looking at it, I was like, okay, my brain is now kind of like normalizing what is important to me. And it was like the short form social clips. So the people that were being like, who were like, oh, I've done this before for other podcasts. Here are the examples of that. And I was like, oh, that looks pretty good. That could be super useful for us. Those were the ones that stood out. But again, just do the thing that the people want.
And another really good example that I am always, when I talk to college kids, but it applies to people working in any profession. And the reasoning that I give them to start your own thing is not only to get repetitions, but you create a portfolio. Yep. So one of the guys that I Mark Green, he put his YouTube, so I checked it out. He had a good thumbnail. He had his YouTube all set up with long form videos, and then he had cut shorts from it. And I was like, that's exactly what we need. He had 500 followers on the account. If he had 5 million, he probably wouldn't be applying for the position. So I'm not saying he's the best one, but like that made it so simple for me to be like, all right, that's someone that we're going to interview.
You'd be shocked too, like when you go through the applications, the number of people that make it difficult for me to figure out like what they do. Yeah. It'd be like, oh, I edit all these videos for like for my school program or whatever, but then they don't show them or link them or put them in the folder. Yeah. I'm like, how am I?
Like one of the guys just posted the Temple Athletics Instagram which was to show that he worked, which is cool. I get your work experience.
Yeah.
But which
we don't
one,
know which one
are
you
you
did.
photo editing? Are you video editing? Did you run it? Were you an intern? Like, make it as easy and clear as possible for us. We've talked about this before. I'd rather you send a very long email to the point, but very long, giving me all the context than just trying to be short and lobbing out, like posting, like tagging the Instagrams for the NBA. Like, what part about this is relevant?
It's like, I worked for this. It's like, that's not good. I need specific things.
Yeah, what did you do?
And that formula, we brought this up a million times, is what you want to be doing for job applications, for reaching out to brands and sponsorships, for reaching out for collaborations. Long is fine, short is fine, medium is fucking fine, but contextual and valuable is what we're looking for.
And don't come in all caps or you're going to look like a scammer.
That's all what we want. Maybe that's what we need.
Yeah. Gets the people's attention.
Yeah. All right. That's all we got.
That's all we got. Jam 1 in the new office 2024.
Oh, dude.
Yeah,
you don't know how fucking hyped I was walking out of that place today.
Yeah, you were energetic about it.
One other thing I was thinking.
That's all from Big Content. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, share with a friend, share with someone who should apply for our Big Content producing job, share with your mother, share with your mother's mother, and we will see you next week on Big Content. Are you ready?
Am I ready? Just flawless execution by you there. Pin it on me.
Welcome to Big Content, presented by C4, so you can see more. Richard Seymour.
No.
Never been poor. Light of a beer, call it course. DJ Moore. Elijah Moore. More Big Content.
Please no more.
There you go. What's your name? Nick. I just have you saved as Nick Erk.
I think that's how a lot of people probably have me.
Do
in.
people call you Ercolano? I feel like I'm asking.
No, your fiance. Is that what she thought she made up a nickname?
It might have
for
been that.
Was it Ercolano?
Yeah. Maybe. Like, that's just his first
Happy.
name.
First letter, last name.
I think it wasn't too creative. She when I first met her, she called herself like the nickname giver. And so her like whole thing when we first started dating was like, I'm going to give you a nickname and that's going to be like our thing. And she wanted to call me Jet.
Jet.
Yeah.
That's tough.
And it could not have stuck less.
Yeah. I was gonna say. I hope that was like a 24-hour thing.
Yeah, pretty much.
You let it happen because you just met her.
Yeah, I was just like.
Has she thought of any other good ones for you?
Big Dog. Big Dog Eats. She calls me.
You Big Dog Eats.
She calls me the big dog that eats.
Okay.
Yeah.
She does make you a lot of food.
She does chef up. Not anything good, but.
What do you mean? You're always flexing what she makes you on IG. Are you faking it?
I mean, you can't see her behind the camera.
She's fucking shotgun loaded and pointed at you.
This salmon rice bowl. Put it on her story.
I actually could see her getting mad at you if you don't put that on her at your story.
Man. All right. I'm ready to rock.
I'm not there. I'm just not there yet.
Need a little more warm up. I like that we got the full screen going though.
It was just so we could watch the video, so we can like suck it in real time.
No, I memorized it. Minute 43 seconds.
And then you're gonna watch something you memorized.
Do you think I should kill the caps on my Twitter name? It's like doing the most, isn't it?
I never really thought about it.
Yeah.
No, you have all caps as your name and then all lowercase for your
the username is.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not all.
It's all lowercase.
I can make it a big J.
You are a big J.
Are you positive?
Yeah. I mean, look at the tweet that's up on the thing right now.
Go to my account. Well, go to DMQE Infinity. I guess you gotta send. No, like I'm trying to see if Twitter just makes it lowercase when it's like in that format.
No, you definitely typed it in that way.
What's yours?
All lowercase, because my entire online footprint is lowercase.
Is lowercase. Are you sure? Go to someone else. Try and find me a DM that you have where someone has a uppercase in their. Oh yeah. Shit. In this format, like Jack Settleman, all caps, kind of looks like I'm like a scammer. I think I'm gonna change that.
You are a fucking scammer, dude.
That's a good point.
Like, it was perfect what you had. Yeah.
Yeah, with the big bet pinned to the profile. Jesus, what am I doing? Whoa. What's that say? That's cap. I need a source. I need a deadline source.
We share sources once we share the office.
That's facts. Well, hit your Dalvin source he's getting traded.
I know. But the problem is no one gives it. The problem is, like,
no one cares.
I was the only one that knew Dalvin Cook was cooked at this point.
Yeah.
Going into the summer.
Yeah.
Everyone was excited about it. Like, an elite running back hits.
Everyone knew that, actually.
That's why you peasants were so excited about this.
I imagine drafting Dalvin Cook. The peasants are the ones who drafted Breece Hall.
Breece Hall's about to go nuts.
About to, right.
Brother, he just had like 3 huge games.
I don't know if I have a single Dalvin Cook share because I'm sharp as a fucking tack. You know who my top exposure is? Jonathan Taylor, 42% owned.
And that's sharp?
I mean, come on.
He missed fucking 4 weeks already.
So did Justin Jefferson and Cooper Kupp.
You drafted him with uncertainty going in.
No. I have his ADP. I have is like 5th and 6th round. Mm-hmm.
There's no chance you have 42% JT in 5th and 6th round.
Yeah.
Because you probably were drafting him in the 2nd round.
No, because I auto-drafted 120 drafts the last 3 days before BBM closed.
Did you cap out BBM?
Yeah, all
This was the
auto-drafts.
first time that I ever actually wanted to. Like, I'm going to do it next summer. I've never wanted to, but now I want to dominate.
I did it the last 2 years, and then this year I was like, I just need to max it out, see what happens.
I have a ton of teams with, like, Puka and Raheem Mostert together that are going really, really, really well.
Wow.
And it makes me I drafted like 11 BBM teams.
I have
Makes me
3
sick.
teams with Puka out of 150, and I have 3 teams with Raheem Mostert. Yeah, the auto draft didn't go great, but
How do I fucking
I had Bijan Robinson. He got 0.3 points. That was hype.
I'm gonna be honest, we need to fix the UI here a little bit on the Underdog.
Why? Complex for you?
Yes. Because from a user standpoint, seriously, I want to talk about this. From a user standpoint.
Are we live right now?
No, we haven't started yet
Okay.
because it's all at the end.
Yeah.
So no one's actually listening to this part.
Yeah.
That's why I could talk about bullshit.
The UI of Underdog.
Their top menu, active, completed, live results.
Yes.
From a user perspective, active and live,
Mm.
completed and results.
Mm-hmm.
That is extremely confusing
Yeah.
to know what you're actually
You know
looking
what
for
they
and what
are
you're
though,
clicking
right?
on.
Yeah.
I do
No, I
because
agree.
you know what I mean? But from
Yeah.
a perspective, I'm not half the time when I'm looking for something, I think so quickly on my phone that I'm like, what the fuck? Where is it?
Yeah.
The thing I'm looking. We just need to dial in on that. We
Ooh,
really do.
Wemby booster tonight.
24.5.
Yo, Wemby's gonna be the fucking GOAT.
He looks pretty good.
He's gonna be the GOAT. Like better than Donovan Mitchell.
What's your highest scoring BBM team? You have that?
2027. 927.
Your highest BBM team is 927?
Dude, I auto drafted. The teams are ass.
I drafted 11 teams. My highest is 907.
Oh, so I'm cooking you?
907, 876, 895.
So I'm cooking you.
Got Tua,
Nothing makes
Mostert, Ayuk, Kirk, Pittman, Waddle, Puka, Josh Downs. Oh my God.
No, this is the best team
What a
ever.
sharp fucking draft.
I love when every receiver, like that's a team that everyone knows their role. Like on a week-to-week basis, they're
That's a
like,
roll. Good hit
I'm
on
gonna
Rashi
contribute.
Rice was a nice hit
I'm gonna
there.
contribute this week. I'm gonna contribute this week.
Ooh.
What?
The running back group is interesting. Like ETN's a beast, obviously. Like this team would have been ripping. H-Han's on here too. But he got hurt.
Ooh.
He's out. Another
It's
guy.
all auto drafted. I didn't do
Deonta
anything.
Foreman, big week.
I didn't do anything.
All right, so fucking, I'm not giving you any credit then.
Please don't. Give me creds for winning $10 week 1 weekly winners draft.
Oh.
Give me credit for hitting Braun under 23.5 points last night. Like, what are they doing? Braun's not coming out and scoring a 25 piece.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Are you done? You're done.
I'm ready.